Hey, welcome to Going Deeper. My name is Carrie Hastings, and this is Holy Week. This is a time for us to reflect and to remember all that Jesus sacrificed for us. And yesterday in our Easter series, Reed was reading from Philippians, where Paul was instructing us to look not only to our own interests, but also to the interests of others. And in the passage we're reading today, Jesus takes this message to a whole new level, where he is talking about us loving our enemies. And today we're going to talk about an obstacle to loving our enemies and a mindset shift that we can make that will help us do that. So when I was a kid, we had this saying, this thing that we would say every time somebody would try to show off or act like a big shot and we weren't all that impressed. We would say, big whoop. Anybody can do that. And the passage that we're reading today, Jesus doesn't really say big whoop, but it's the same idea. We're reading from Luke chapter 6, verses 32 through 36. And Jesus' words, he says, "If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you?" In other words, big whoop. Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? In other words, big whoop. Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? And we all say, big whoop. Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. And Jesus is essentially saying here, this is not that impressive. Anyone can do that. This is how the world works, that you like people who like you, you get what you pay for. And, that's nice and everything. But Jesus is saying, I called you to a higher standard. I called you up and out from that way of thinking. And I find it interesting that the word expect or expecting is used 3 times in this short passage. And I think that one of the biggest obstacles to us loving our enemies is expectations. I don't know about you, but I often have expectations of other people to live up to behave in a certain way. And as you probably know, expectations are really just a recipe for disappointment, for conflict, for resentment and bitterness and anger, and you name it. Because expectations carry with it this consumer's mindset. It's like a selfish and grabby mindset where we set ourselves up to believe that we deserve something from someone else. And that is not the way of Jesus. Jesus is calling us to move from an expectations of others to an expectancy of God himself, a shifting our minds from expecting people to meet our needs and to make things right to looking to God. Expectancy of God is an outward, upward focus. It's trusting that God is going to fill my deepest desires and my deepest longings and all my needs. And it's deciding ahead of time that no matter what happens, no matter if somebody says something untrue or does something unfair, it's going to be okay because we are believing that God is going to make it right and he's going to do what's good. So we can pre-decide that our contentment is not dependent on another person's actions, whether or not someone does what is right or do what we think that we deserve. And now it's not fair. It doesn't feel fair. It doesn't feel good. But the cross wasn't fair. And aren't you glad? Because we never deserved God's forgiveness. So as we prepare for Easter week, My challenge to you is just to think of someone who doesn't deserve your love and love anyway. Let's love in a way that does not expect anything in return because big whoop, right? Anyone can do that. And we're not called to be just anyone. Jesus says here that we will be called sons and daughters of the Most High. So let's live like it. And this week especially, let's think of Jesus, who was kind to the very people who nailed him to the cross. Let's take a minute and just pray that he'd help us do just that. Oh God, what you call us to is a radical way of life, and we can't do it without you. And so I pray, God, that you would help us to love every person you put in our path, especially the people who are hardest to love. And I pray that we would do that out of an overflow for what you have already done for us. And we ask this in your name. Amen. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.